I always thought the morning of my engagement celebration would feel warm, bright, and full of hope, but when I opened my eyes that day, something inside me felt strangely tight. I tried to shake it off as I got dressed. "Relax, Ethan," I whispered to myself. "It's just nerves." I kept saying it like the words might calm me, but they didn't. When I walked into the kitchen, I said, "Morning, Lena," expecting her usual smile, but she didn't turn around. She just stood there staring at her phone. I tried again. "Big day, huh?" She flinched like my voice startled her. "Yeah, big day," she said, but the tone was flat, almost cold. I laughed a little, trying to lighten the mood. "You sound like you're walking into a job interview, not an engagement party." She didn't laugh. She didn't even look at me. She just said, "I have a lot on my mind." Before I could ask what that meant, her phone buzzed. She grabbed it fast, almost too fast. I watched her face, tense, nervous, and something sharp moved in my chest. "Who's that?" I asked. "No one. Just work," she replied, but her voice shook. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to ruin the day by pushing. "Okay," I muttered. "I'll give you space." I walked out of the room, but I didn't go far. I don't know why I paused in the hallway. Maybe it was fear. Maybe instinct. Maybe some part of me already knew the truth. Whatever the reason, I stopped there, and that's when I heard it. Her phone rang, and she answered in a trembling whisper. "Aaron, not now. He's here." My heart froze. My best friend's name. My best friend since childhood. The guy I trusted more than anyone. I leaned closer, feeling sick. Lena said, "I know what I said. I'm trying, but I can't pretend anymore. I can't lie to him today of all days." I grabbed the wall to steady myself. My throat burned. My palms were sweating. Then I heard his voice through the phone, faint but clear enough. Aaron said, "Just tell him. He'll get over it." I felt the air leave my lungs. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. Lena whispered, "He won't. You don't know him like I do." Hearing her say that, hearing her talk about me with him, sent something breaking inside me. I stepped back, but the floor felt like it tilted. I walked into the kitchen, heart pounding so hard I thought I might collapse. "Tell me what?" I asked. She froze. The phone slipped from her hand and hit the counter. "Ethan," I cut her off. "Tell me what you can't pretend about." Aaron's voice came through the phone. "Is he there?" I shouted. "Yeah, I'm here. What's going on? Someone say something." Lena grabbed the phone and hung up. And she finally looked at me, really looked at me, and her eyes filled with this strange mix of guilt and stubbornness. "Ethan," she sighed, "we need to talk." I stepped closer. "About what?" "About why you're talking to my best friend in whispers. About why you're lying to me." She lifted her chin. I didn't want it to happen like this. I felt my blood turn cold. "Happen? What's happening?" She swallowed hard. "I'm calling off the engagement." The words shattered me. "Why?" "Lena, why?" She closed her eyes like she couldn't bear to look at me. "Because I don't love you the way I used to. I've been trying to force it, but it's not fair to either of us." I shook my head. "Then why talk to Aaron?" "Why him?" She bit her lip, and for a moment I could see the truth in her eyes before she said it. "Because I'm with him now." I felt my heart rip open. "You're joking," I whispered. "Please tell me you're joking." "I'm not," she said quietly. "I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did." I slammed my hand on the counter. "You were cheating on me? With Aaron?" "My best friend." "It wasn't planned," she said. "It just happened." "That's your excuse?" I shouted. "It just happened." She stepped back. "I'm sorry." "No," I said, shaking. "You don't get to say sorry. Not for this." My phone rang then. I didn't want to look, but I did. It was Aaron. I answered with pure rage. "How long?" He sighed like he was annoyed. "Ethan, don't do this." "How long?" I screamed. 6 months, he said. "We didn't want to hurt you." I almost laughed. "Didn't want to hurt me? You stole my fiancée. You lied to me. You both lied to me every day." "Look," he said, "you'll move on. You always do." I hung up because if I heard another word, I'd break something. Lena whispered. I didn't want to lie forever. I stared at her. "Then you should have told me before I gave you a ring." She didn't answer. I grabbed the ring from her finger. She didn't fight me, and set on the table. "You two deserve each other," I said softly, my voice cracking. "And I hope you're happy, because today you killed something in me." She tried to touch my arm, but I stepped back. "Don't," I whispered. "Just don't." Then I walked out the door, and the moment the air hit my face, I felt everything collapse inside me. My future, my trust, my belief in love. All of it cracked open and fell apart before I took my second step down the porch stairs. That was the day my life broke, and the day everything truly began. I don't know how I managed to stay standing after the truth came out. My legs shook so hard that I had to grip the doorway just to keep myself from collapsing. When Lena finally faced me, I whispered, "Why?" She crossed her arms like she was the victim and said, "Don't make this harder." I stared at her and asked, "How long have you been planning to leave me?" She sighed and answered, "I didn't plan it." I said, "Then explain it, because none of this makes sense to me." Lena looked away and muttered, "I outgrew you." I felt something tear inside my chest as I repeated, "Outgrew me." She nodded and said, "You're a good man, but you're safe." I laughed because the pain was too sharp, and I said, "Safe is bad now." She raised her voice and said, "I need someone who makes me feel alive." I couldn't believe what I was hearing, so I stepped closer and asked, "And Aaron does that?" She didn't hesitate. She just whispered, "Yes." I felt dizzy, so I said, "He's my best friend, Lena." She shrugged like it didn't matter and replied, "That's not my problem." My heart pounded as I said, "It became your problem the second you betrayed me." Before she could reply, my phone vibrated again, and Aaron's name flashed across the screen. I answered and shouted, "What do you want now?" He said, "Calm down, man. You're making this ugly." I screamed, "You made it ugly when you stole the woman I loved." He muttered, "It wasn't like that." I yelled back, "Then explain it to me, because she sure can't." He sighed loudly and said, "We connected. It just happened." I said, "You keep saying that like it makes it less disgusting." He snapped, "Look, you weren't keeping her happy." I froze and whispered, "So you two decided to fix that together?" Lena stepped toward me and said, "Stop yelling. My mother is coming soon." I glared at her and replied, "Good. Maybe she should hear what you did." A moment later, her mother stormed in and shouted, "What did you do, Ethan?" I looked at her and said, "Ask your daughter." Lena hissed, "He's blaming me for everything." I answered, "I'm blaming you for cheating on me with my best friend." Her mother gasped and said, "That can't be true." I laughed bitterly and replied, "Believe what you want." When my mother arrived, she rushed to me and asked, "Ethan, what happened? Why are you shaking?" I whispered, "She cheated, Mom." My mother grabbed my hands and said, "We'll get through this. Just breathe." Lena rolled her eyes and said, "This drama is unnecessary." I stared at her and whispered, "You destroyed my life in one morning." She crossed her arms and said, "You'll survive." I shook my head and replied, "Not because of you." My mother pulled me close and whispered, "Let's go home." I looked at the ring on the table and said, "Take it, Lena. It means nothing now." Her mother snapped, "Watch your tone." I replied, "I'm done talking." I walked outside, and the sky opened with heavy rain that soaked straight through my clothes. My mother followed me and said, "Ethan, please breathe." I looked up at the sky and whispered, "Why did they do this to me?" She put her hand on my back and said, "Some people break others to feel strong." I covered my face and sobbed. "It hurts so much." My mother whispered, "Let it out. You don't have to pretend." I cried in the rain until my voice cracked and the pain spilled out of me like water from a broken pipe. When I finally stopped shaking, I whispered, "This won't be the end of me." My mother nodded and said, "That's my boy." I wiped my face and muttered, "I'll rise again, but not for revenge." My mother asked, "Then for what?" I took a deep breath and said, "For myself." We walked to her car slowly because my legs still felt weak and the rain kept hitting my eyes. She opened the door and said, "Sit, Ethan." I sat down and whispered, "I can't believe they did this." She turned on the heater and replied, "You trusted them, and they used that trust." I shook my head and said, "He was like a brother to me." She answered softly, "Sometimes brothers break you deeper than enemies." I closed my eyes and whispered, "I don't know how to start again." She put a blanket over me and said, "One breath at a time." I let the warmth hit my skin as I murmured, "Everything feels ruined." She replied, "Everything can be rebuilt." I looked at my hands and said, "I just want to feel like myself again." She touched my shoulder and whispered, "You will, Ethan." You're stronger than you think. I nodded slowly because her words felt like a tiny light in the darkness swallowing me whole. I whispered, I don't want a day to define me, even though part of me felt broken. My mother said, it won't, unless you let it, and her voice steadied my heart. I breathed in slowly and felt a small strength growing inside me despite the pain. I whispered, I'll rebuild myself, and for the first time that day, I believed my own words. When I woke up the next morning, the silence in my apartment felt painfully heavy. I sat on the edge of my bed and whispered, please let this be a dream. But the ache in my chest reminded me everything was real, and it crushed me. I didn't go to work. I couldn't even look at my phone without shaking again. I stayed in the dark and kept hearing Lena's voice telling me she outgrew me. Every time that line echoed, I felt something inside me break all over again. I forced myself into the kitchen, but I couldn't even finish a slice of bread. My hand shook so badly that the plate slipped, and the crash made me jump. I pressed my palms to my face and whispered, why wasn't I enough for them? No answer ever came, just the same twisting pain that made my stomach feel hollow. I didn't want to see anyone, so I turned off my phone and lay on the floor. My apartment felt too small for all the memories slamming into me with every breath. I remembered Lena laughing in my arms, telling me she loved my calm, steady heart. I remembered promising her I would always protect her, and now I couldn't even protect myself. Hours passed, and the room dimmed, but I didn't move because my body felt drained completely. When my door knocked softly, I ignored it, hoping whoever it was would simply go away. But the knocking came again, followed by a quiet voice calling, Ethan, are you home? I recognized Mia Turner from work, and my stomach twisted because I didn't want pity today. She knocked again and said, I know you're in there. Can you just talk to me? I almost yelled for her to leave, but instead I whispered, please, not right now. Mia replied softly, okay, but I'm not leaving until you at least open the door. I dragged myself up and cracked the door open because her voice sounded too kind to ignore. When she saw my face, she whispered, oh my God. Ethan, what happened to you? I said, nothing. I'm fine, even though my voice broke so badly it sounded painful to hear. She stepped a little closer and said, you look like you haven't slept or eaten in days. I muttered, I don't need food. I just need time, but the words sounded weak even to me. Mia frowned and said, someone hurt you. Please don't lie to me about that. I leaned on the doorway and whispered, it doesn't matter. I just want to disappear for a while. She shook her head and said, no, you don't get to disappear. Not like this. I sighed and said, why do you care? We barely talk at work anyway. Mia answered, because you're a good guy, and something about this feels wrong to me. Hearing those words softened something in my chest, even though I tried not to show it. I whispered, I just need time to breathe, and she nodded like she understood completely. Before she left, she said, I'll check on you later. Don't lock yourself away forever. When she walked off, I felt a tiny warmth in my chest that hadn't existed all week. I closed the door slowly and whispered, maybe I'm not as alone as I thought. For the first time since the breakup, I sat at my desk and opened my journal. I wrote, I won't let them destroy me, even though I still felt shaky inside. The words looked fragile on the page, but writing them made me feel a little stronger. I kept writing until my hand cramped, and every sentence felt like a tiny step forward. When I finally put the journal down, I whispered, I'm still here. I'm still fighting. The apartment was still quiet, but the silence didn't choke me the same way anymore. I walked to the window and opened it slightly, letting the cold air hit my tired face. The air felt sharp, but it reminded me that I was still alive, still breathing, still moving. I whispered to myself, you can rebuild, even though the idea felt impossible and distant right then. But Mia's voice kept echoing in my head, reminding me someone cared enough to knock on my door. I held that small comfort close because it felt like the only thing keeping me from collapsing again. I walked back to my desk, touched the journal again, and told myself I would keep writing tomorrow. I didn't know if writing would fix anything, but it felt like the only place where my voice mattered. I sat there for a long time, staring at the blank wall, feeling like my heart was learning how to beat again. Even though the pain still clawed at me, I whispered that I would not fall apart forever. I didn't believe it fully, but saying it out loud helped me take one more small step forward. I breathed in slowly and whispered, "I'm not done yet," because part of me still hoped. Today, while I walked back into the office after a week away, I felt everyone's eyes on me even though no one said anything out loud. I tried to act normal, but my chest tightened with every step I took. Mia walked over and whispered, "You made it back." I nodded and said I had to try. She looked at me like she could see every crack inside me and said, "If you need help today, just ask." I told her I appreciated it, even though my voice shook a little. Going to my desk felt like carrying a weight, but I forced myself to sit and breathe slowly. I whispered, one step at a time, hoping the words would steady me. A few minutes later, Mia came back with a cup of coffee and set it beside my keyboard. I said, "You didn't have to do that," but she shook her head. "You look like you need it," she said, and I couldn't argue. I sipped the drink and whispered, "Thanks, really." She smiled gently and said, "Tell me if work gets overwhelming." I nodded again because the truth was everything felt overwhelming, but hearing her voice made it a little easier to breathe. After a while, she introduced me to her brother Daniel when he stopped by to pick her up for lunch. He shook my hand and said, "Mia talks about you a lot at home." I felt my face warm and replied, "I hope she says good things." Daniel laughed softly and said, "Relax, she only says you work too hard and forget to eat." I joked, "Apparently that's true lately." He looked at me for a moment and said, "If you ever want to join us for dinner, you're welcome." I didn't know what to say, so I just whispered, "Maybe sometime." He nodded kindly and left with Mia, and as soon as they were gone, the office felt colder again. I whispered to myself, "They're good people," and for a moment I felt something warm flicker inside my chest. But when I checked my phone during lunch, everything shattered again the second I saw the photos people sent me. Lena and Aaron were smiling together at some rooftop bar, holding hands like they were proud of what they did. I gripped my phone and whispered, "Why does it still hurt this much?" When I returned to my desk, Mia noticed something in my face and said, "You saw something bad, didn't you?" I didn't answer at first, but she stepped closer and said, "You don't have to hide it from me." I sighed and whispered, "They're posting pictures like nothing happened." She clenched her jaw and said, "That's cruel." I nodded slowly and replied, "I'm trying to move on, but it still hits hard." She said, "Then let us help you. You don't have to do this alone." Her words shook something loose inside me, and I whispered, "I'll try." She smiled softly and said, "Good. Start by eating lunch with us tomorrow." I agreed, and for the first time in weeks my heartbeat didn't feel painful. It felt like someone opened a window in a room I'd been drowning in. I whispered that maybe healing wasn't impossible after all. After work, I forced myself to go for a jog, even though my legs felt heavy and my lungs felt tight. I kept whispering, "Just keep moving," because stopping meant thinking, and thinking still hurt too much. Halfway through the path, my phone buzzed again, and I almost ignored it until I saw Mia's name on the screen. I answered, and she said, "Just checking if you're really eating dinner tonight." I laughed for the first time in days and said, "I'll try not to skip it." She said, "Good. Your face looked too pale today." I responded, "I'll work on that," and she told me one step at a time. Her encouragement felt warm, and when I ended the call, I realized my breathing sounded calmer. For a moment, jogging didn't feel like punishment anymore. It felt like maybe I was running towards something instead of running away. When I got home, I sat on the couch and let the quiet settle around me without crushing me this time. I picked up my journal again, and as I opened it, I whispered, "Maybe this is how I start over." I wrote about work, about Mia, about Daniel's kindness, and about the small feeling of hope I hadn't expected to return. I said out loud, "They don't get to decide my future anymore," and hearing my own voice say it felt like a small victory. I leaned back and whispered, "You're still here, Ethan," reminding myself that losing them didn't mean losing my whole life. I felt the pain still sitting inside me, but it didn't control my breathing the same way anymore. I whispered, "Maybe tomorrow will hurt less." And for the first time, it felt like a realistic hope rather than a desperate prayer. I closed eyes and promised I would keep moving. When I walked into the office that Monday, I felt lighter than usual, like the air around me wasn't squeezing my chest anymore. I sat down and whispered, "Another week. Let's see what happens." A coworker, Josh, leaned over and said, "Hey man, did you hear about Aaron?" The sound of that name still hit a nerve, but I kept my voice steady as I asked, "What about him?" Josh lowered his voice and said, "Dude's been flirting around. People saw him out with 2 different women last week." I blinked slowly and whispered, "Already?" Josh nodded. "Yeah, and apparently Lena doesn't know." I didn't want to care, but the words dug into me anyway. Part of me whispered, "Karma," but the rest of me said, "Stay out of it." I stared at my screen until Mia walked over and said, "You okay? You look tense again." I shrugged and told her, "Just heard something stupid." She sat beside me and asked, "Want to talk about it?" I shook my head. "Not really. It's nothing I want to waste breath on." She nodded slowly and said, "Well, if it bothers you, I'm here." Her voice always carried this steady warmth that I didn't expect from anyone anymore. Around lunchtime, my phone buzzed, and when I saw Lena's name, my throat tightened. The message said, "I miss our calm life. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen and whispered, "Why now?" Mia heard me sigh and asked, "Bad text?" I nodded and said, "Yeah, from someone who shouldn't be contacting me." She frowned, then blocked them. I said, "I'm thinking about it." She replied, "No, don't think. Just do it. You deserve peace." Hearing that almost pushed me to do it, but I put my phone face down instead. Mia leaned closer and whispered, "You don't owe them anything." I nodded, and the simple truth in her words steadied me. When we left for lunch, she asked, "Do rumors bother you?" I said, "Depends on the rumor." She looked over at me and said, "Then here's one more. Someone said Aaron's relationship is already messy." I stiffened, but she kept talking. "I don't want you hurt again, but maybe seeing their flaws helps you move on." I sighed and replied, "Maybe, but I don't want their drama anywhere near me." She said, "Good. Let it collapse without you." I whispered, "I'm trying." She smiled. "I know." We sat in a quiet corner at a small cafe, and for the first time, I found myself laughing, really laughing, at one of her jokes. She looked surprised and said, "You should laugh more. It suits you." I replied, "I forgot what laughing felt like." She leaned in and said, "Then we'll fix that." Something warm spread through my chest, and I whispered, "You're too kind to me." She shook her head. "I'm just being normal. You deserve normal." Later that evening, I went for a long jog to clear my head. Every step felt like I was shedding something old, fear, anger, the ghost of who I used to be. My mind replayed conversations with Mia, the way she listened, the way her voice softened when she asked if I was okay. I whispered to myself, "Don't fall too fast. Don't screw this up." It scared me how much I enjoyed being around her. It scared me how much she made my chest feel steady. But the fear didn't stop the hope growing slowly inside me. When I got home, another message from Lena popped up. "I miss the way you made life feel safe." I whispered, "You should have thought of that sooner." I didn't reply. I didn't even open the chat fully. I just blocked her number and set my phone down with a shaky breath. A moment later, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Mia stood there holding 2 takeout bags. I blinked and said, "What are you doing here?" She laughed softly and said, "We didn't answer your phone, so I assumed you were isolating again." I stepped aside and let her in. "You didn't have to bring food." She shrugged. "You forget to eat when your head gets too loud." We sat on the couch, and she nudged a container toward me. "Eat," she said. I smiled. "Bossy." She laughed. I prefer the word persistent. I took a bite and whispered, "Thank you." She looked at me for a moment and said, "You're changing, you know? You're slowly coming back." I shook my head. "I don't feel like I'm back." She replied, "That's because you're not going back. You're becoming someone new." Her words hit deeper than I expected, and I whispered, "I want that. I want to be someone stronger." She said, "Then keep going. You've already started." As she stood to leave, I walked her to the door and whispered, "Thanks for checking on me." She smiled and said, "Anytime. You're not alone." Watching her leave made something inside me shift, something gentle and terrifying. I closed the door and whispered, "Don't fall too fast," but a part of me whispered, "Maybe this time is different." I sat at my desk, opened my journal, and wrote about the day about Mia's kindness, about the rumors, about the quiet hope forming inside me. And as I closed the journal, I whispered, "I'm becoming someone new." And for the first time in a long time, those words felt real. When the quarter ended, I walked into the conference room shaking slightly, but in a good way. Mr. Gray looked at the presentation slides and said, "You led this?" I nodded and replied, "Yes, sir. I handled the design, the revisions, and the rollout." He tapped the table and said, "Impressive. Keep this up, and you'll be moving upward sooner than you think." My chest tightened with a mix of pride and disbelief. I whispered, "Thank you. I won't waste the chance." He gave a rare smile and said, "Confidence looks good on you. Don't lose it." While I walked back to my desk, Mia appeared with a grin. "So, how did it go?" I laughed softly and said, "Better than I expected." She clapped once. "I knew it. You've been killing it." I leaned back and whispered, "Feels strange. Like I'm finally waking up." She nodded and said, "That's what growth feels like." After work, she asked, "Are you free tonight? My parents want you over for dinner." I blinked. "Your parents?" She nodded. "Yeah. They liked you when they met you after Daniel's promotion party. They want to know you better." I hesitated. "Want to be weird?" She shook her head firmly. "Not at all. They already think of you as a friend." I whispered, "Okay, then yeah, I'll come." When we arrived, her mother Emily greeted me immediately. "There he is," she said warmly. "Come in, sweetheart." I froze at the word sweetheart until Mia nudged me and whispered, "Relax." She calls everyone that. Her father Mark gave me a handshake so solid it almost reset my spine. "Glad you're here," he said. I laughed awkwardly and replied, "Glad to be here." During dinner, Emily asked, "How's work treating you?" I said, "Better lately. I'm finally finding my footing." Mark nodded and said, "Nothing wrong with rebuilding. We've all had to do it." I felt something heavy loosen in my chest as I replied, "Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to do." Mia smiled at me from across the table, and the warmth in her eyes settled something deep inside me. After dinner, Emily offered dessert, and I whispered I shouldn't, but she insisted, "You need it. You're too thin. Let me feed you." Mia rolled her eyes and said, "Mom, don't smother him." Emily waved her off. "I'm not smothering. I'm nurturing." Mark leaned toward me and whispered, "She's always like this. Just let her hand you cake." I laughed, unable to stop the smile spreading across my face. Later, in the living room, Daniel sat beside me and said, "Heard you nailed that project." I shrugged. "Try my best." He nodded slowly. "Mia told us you've had a rough year." I stiffened. "She told you." He raised his hands. "Only the bare minimum. She just said you've been hurt." I sighed. "Yeah, that's a simple way to put it." He looked at me and said, "Pain makes us stronger if we let it. Weak if we don't." The words hit harder than I expected. I whispered, "I'm trying to let it make me stronger." He nodded. "Good, because you're surrounded by people who'd help if you asked." I swallowed and said, "I'm not used to that." He smiled. "Then get used to it." On the drive back, Mia asked, "So, do they scare you?" I laughed. "A little, but in a good way." She grinned. "They already adore you." I shook my head. "Why?" "I'm just trying to get my life together." She said softly, "Because they can tell you're a good man." My breath caught for a moment. "That feels strange to hear." She looked out the window and whispered, "Then I'll keep saying it until you believe it." The next week, I focused harder than ever at work. Every time I doubted myself, I heard Daniel's voice saying, "Pain makes us stronger." Every time I felt weak, I remembered Emily pushing dessert at me like I was one of her own. Every time I felt that old ache in my chest, I thought of Mia's steady smile. One afternoon in the break room, Mia said, "You're glowing. Did something good happen?" I smirked. "I'm just improving." She leaned her hip against the counter. "I can tell. You're standing straighter." I laughed. "Is that a compliment?" She grinned. "Yes, and you should take it." That evening, as we walked out together, she asked, "Do you ever think about what you want next?" I hesitated. "I'm still figuring that out." She nudged me. "Not job-wise. I mean for yourself." I swallowed hard. I want to feel like I deserve good things again. She looked at me gently and said, "You already do." I felt heat rise in my face, and I whispered, "I like spending time with you." She blinked. "You do." I nodded. More than I expected. She smiled softly. I like being around you too. I looked away. I'm just scared. I don't want to break again. She stepped closer and said, then don't rush anything. Just grow. I'll be here. When I got home, I sat at my desk and opened my journal. I wrote about the project, about the Turner's warmth, about Daniel's words, about the way Mia looked at me when she said she'd stay. And for the first time, the future didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a possibility. The moment I stepped into the lobby, I heard my name, soft, shaky, almost unreal. Ethan, please. I stopped cold. My breath locked in my chest before I even turned. When I finally looked, Lena stood near the chairs, clutching her purse like it was the only thing holding her together. Her makeup was smudged. Her eyes were swollen. She looked nothing like the polished woman who left me behind. I whispered, "Why are you here?" She took a step toward me. "Can we talk? Please. Just for a minute." I shook my head. "At my job? What?" Her voice cracked. "Because you won't answer my messages." I didn't know where else to go. I clenched my jaw. "There's a reason I didn't answer." She swallowed hard. I know I don't deserve anything. But I need to explain." Before I could respond, Mia walked out of the elevator. "Ethan, we're needed in." She stopped when she saw Lena. "Oh." Lena stared at her and whispered, "Can we talk alone?" I whispered back, "Mia, give me a second." Mia nodded slowly, but looked at me with concern. "If you need me, just call." When she walked away, Lena let out a shaky breath. "Who is she?" I stared at her. "A friend." She pressed her lips together. "Right, a friend." I said flatly, "Say what you came to say." She hesitated, then whispered, "It's about Aaron." I rolled my eyes. "I don't want to hear about him." "You should," she whispered. "Because he lied to me, used me, hurt me." I crossed my arms. "And that has anything to do with me, how?" Tears filled her eyes. "Because I thought he was different. I thought he loved me. But he cheated on me, Ethan. More than once." I didn't react. I felt nothing. No warmth, no heartbreak, no urge to comfort her. Just a strange emptiness. She continued, "I caught him last week. He didn't even deny it. He said he was bored. He said I was too much work." I sighed. "Lena, I'm not your shoulder to cry on." She reached out as if to touch my arm, but I stepped back. She whispered, "You don't understand. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought he made me feel alive. I thought you were too calm, too predictable. I was stupid." I let out a humorless laugh. "You're right about one thing." She winced. "Ethan, I made a mistake." I looked her straight in the eyes. "You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice." She flinched like I had slapped her. I thought I knew what I wanted. But everything is falling apart. "And you?" She paused, studying my face. "You look different. Stronger." I shrugged. "I'm trying to be." She whispered, "Do you hate me?" I shook my head. "No. Hate takes energy. I don't have that for you anymore." She looked down, tears dripping onto the floor. "I miss the peace you gave me. I miss knowing you'd always choose me. I miss the way you held me when I felt lost." My chest tightened, but not from love. It was something sharper, colder. I whispered, "I needed you when everything fell apart. You weren't there." She whispered, "I know. I beg you to talk." "You laughed in my face." "I know. You made me feel replaceable." "I know." She whispered, voice breaking. "I regret it every day." I shook my head slowly. Regret changes nothing. She reached up to wipe her tears. "Can we start over? As friends? As something?" I didn't hesitate. "No." She froze. "No." I held her gaze. "Lena, I'm not the same man you left behind. I don't want to go backward." She whispered, "But you still care. I can hear it in your voice." I shook my head again. "What you're hearing is closure, not love." Her breath hitched. "So that's it. That's it." She covered her mouth with her hand. "I don't know who I am without you. That's something you need to figure out alone." She whispered, "Mia, is she the reason you won't even try?" I stiffened. "My choices aren't about you anymore." "So you do like her," she whispered. I said nothing. She exhaled shakily. "I ruined everything, didn't I?" I shrugged gently. "Actions have consequences." She whispered, "I loved you. I still love you." I felt the words hit me, but they didn't sink in. They didn't belong to the person standing in front of me. I replied, "You love the version of me who wouldn't stand up for himself." I'm not that person anymore. She sobbed. I want another chance. I don't, I said simply. We stood in silence for several seconds. Then she stepped back. I thought you'd save me. I said softly, you're not mine to save. She wiped her face with trembling fingers. If you ever change your mind, I won't. She closed her eyes, nodded slowly, and whispered, goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Lena. I turned and walked toward the elevator. My legs felt heavy, but my chest felt strangely light. As the doors opened, Mia stepped out, her eyes meeting mine immediately. You okay? I whispered, yeah. Finally. She searched my face. What happened? I let out a slow breath. Closure. She nodded gently. You look like you let go of something heavy. I smiled faintly. I did. For the first time, the past didn't feel like chains around my ankles. It felt like something I had finally released, something that no longer controlled me. And I walked away feeling free. The morning after Lena showed up, I walked into work feeling strangely calm. Mia noticed it right away. You look lighter, she said as we stepped into the break room. I nodded. It feels like a storm finally passed. She poured coffee and asked, did she want you back? I sighed. Yeah, but I told her no. She looked at me carefully. And you don't regret it? Not even a little, I said. Talking to her showed me who she really is. Mia leaned against the counter. Good. You deserve better than someone who only comes back when her life is falling apart. I hesitated. Speaking of falling apart, I heard something about them. She tilted her head. About Lena and Aaron? Yeah, I said. Apparently they've been fighting nonstop. Not surprised, she muttered. Two unstable people usually create fireworks, and not the fun kind. I exhaled. I heard Aaron's been jealous of me for years. She blinked. Of you? Seems like it, I replied. Someone told me he hated how calm my life was. My job, my family, even the way I acted. Mia frowned. That's pathetic. I shrugged. Maybe, but makes sense. He always tried to one-up me. I just never thought he'd go that far. She crossed her arms. Cheating with your fiancé? Yeah, that's pretty far. I whispered. I can't believe I didn't see it. She stepped closer. You trusted him. That's not a flaw. Later at lunch, Daniel joined us at the table. Heard any updates? He asked quietly. I nodded. Rumors. Their relationship is a mess. Daniel scoffed. It was built on lies. What did they expect? I sighed. Some people think chaos is passion. He pointed at me. And some people, like you, think stability is boring. That's how you ended up with someone like her. I winced. Yeah, I learned the hard way. Daniel softened. You're learning now? That's what matters. I poked at my food. Honestly, I don't even feel angry anymore. Just weird. Like watching a house burn that you don't live in. Mia raised a brow. And you're not tempted to run in and save it? I shook my head immediately. No, not anymore. She smiled. Good, because you're building something better. That evening, Daniel asked, Hey, can you help me pick up a few things from my parents? They're redoing the guest room. I nodded. Yeah, sure. At the store, he handed me a box and said, You've been around our family a lot lately. Is that a problem? I asked. He laughed. No, my parents like you. I like you. Mia really likes you. I felt my face warm. We're just friends. He smirked. For now. I shook my head. I'm serious. I'm still figuring things out. He placed another box in the cart. Then figure out near her. She's good for you. As we walked to the register, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an old mutual friend. You won't believe what's happening with Lena and Aaron. I sighed. Daniel noticed. More drama. Probably, I muttered. I'm ignoring it. He nodded approvingly. Good. Let them drown in their own mess. Back at the Turner house, Emily greeted us. Oh, Ethan, you're such a lifesaver. I smiled. Just doing my part. She patted my shoulder. You always help without complaining. It's refreshing. Mia walked in with a towel on her head. What did I miss? Daniel snorted. Mom is adopting Ethan. Emily whispered loudly. I already did. He just doesn't know it yet. I laughed as she handed me a plate of cookies. The warmth in the room wrapped around me like a blanket I didn't know I needed. Mia sat beside me on the couch. You're quiet, she said. Just thinking, I replied. About her? Not really, I said honestly. More about everything. She leaned forward. What kind of everything? Where I'm going, I whispered. Who I'm becoming. She smiled gently. I like who you're becoming. I exhaled. I feel like I belong here. With you guys. You do, she said. My family thinks so too. Her words settled deep inside me. Later, as I helped Mark move a shelf, he asked, You doing better, kid? I nodded. Much better than I was. He grunted as he lifted one side of the shelf. Good. You deserve peace. Some people only learn the value of that after it's gone. I knew he wasn't just talking about me. He knew the whole story. When I got home, I finally checked the message from earlier. It wasn't just gossip, it was screenshots. Arguments. Lena accusing Aaron of cheating again. Aaron accusing her of ruining his life. I whispered to myself, they're falling apart. But instead of satisfaction, I felt something surprising, distance. Like I was looking at a past life that had nothing to do with me anymore. Mia texted me just then. Did you get home safe? I smiled. Yeah, thanks for asking. She replied instantly. Good. Rest well. You deserve a calm night. I shut my phone and leaned back in my chair. Lena's return wasn't a sign. It wasn't fate. It was a warning of who I used to be, and I was finally becoming someone better. The night felt peaceful for once, and I was getting ready for bed when my phone rang. I checked the screen and froze. Aaron, I whispered. I almost let it ring out, but something in me said to answer. I picked up. What do you want? His voice came out slurred. You think you're better than me, don't you? I sighed loudly. You're drunk. Hang up and go sleep. No, he snapped. You ruined my life. I laughed quietly. I ruined your life? You cheated. You lied. You betrayed me. That's not, he started, but then hiccuped loudly. You always had everything handed to you. Everyone loved you. Lena loved you first. Your mom loves you. Your stupid calm life always made me look weak. I leaned against the wall. I worked for my peace, Aaron. It wasn't handed to me. He groaned. You made Lena compare us. You made her feel like I wasn't enough. I shook my head. She chose you. That was her decision, not mine. He growled. You think you're so pure. No, I said softly. I'm just not the one who destroyed your relationship. There was a long pause, and then his voice cracked. She hates me now. I didn't answer. She said I used her. She said I ruined her future. She said I broke everything. I whispered, maybe listen to her for once. He barked a harsh laugh. You love this, don't you? Watching us fall apart. I don't love it, I said firmly. I'm just done caring. He sucked in a breath. She came to see you. I know, I replied. She said you rejected her. I did, I said. Why, he whispered. Because I'm not going backwards. He groaned again. I hate you. I exhaled slowly. You hate yourself. You're just aiming it at me. He didn't answer this time. The silence stretched until he finally muttered, I don't know what to do anymore. I softened my voice. Then try something new. Take responsibility. He scoffed. Easy for you. No, I said. But necessary. He muttered something I couldn't understand. Then he whispered, I shouldn't have done it. Any of it. I didn't say anything. You were the only real friend I ever had, he said. And I destroyed it. I closed my eyes. Yeah, you did. He sobbed weakly. I'm sorry. I whispered good. But that won't fix anything. He sighed heavily. Of course not. I finally said, go sleep, Aaron. You need it. He didn't argue. Fine. Whatever. Goodbye, I said. He paused. Goodbye, Ethan. I hung up and stared at the ceiling. For the first time, I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel angry. I felt free. His words didn't drag me down. His pain didn't feel like mine anymore. When I stepped outside for fresh air, Mia's name popped up on my phone. Still awake? I texted back, yeah. Rough call. She replied, want company? I hesitated for a second, then sent back, yeah, if you're free. 5 minutes later, she was at my door wearing a hoodie and tired eyes. You okay? She asked softly. I nodded. Just got off the phone with him. She stepped inside. What happened? He blamed me for everything, I said, then apologized, then blamed me again. She sighed. Typical. I sat on the couch and rubbed my face. But the crazy thing? I didn't feel anything. Not really. She sat next to me. That's not crazy. That's healing. I looked at her. Do you think so? She nodded. Yeah. When pain stops controlling you, it stops hurting. I leaned back. He said he was jealous of my life. That's on him, she said. Not you. I stared at her for a moment. Why are you always so calm about my chaos? She smiled softly. Because you deserve someone who listens instead of someone who adds to it. I swallowed hard. I'm trying to understand things. Trying to rebuild. She tucked her legs under herself. I know, and I don't want to make another mistake, I added quietly. She tilted her head. What mistake? I hesitated, letting myself care too much about the wrong people. She watched me carefully. Do you think I'm the wrong person? My chest tightened. No, I whispered. That's the problem. She looked surprised, then her voice softened. Ethan, what are you trying to say? I looked down at my hands. I care about you. More than I planned. More than I expected. More than I should maybe. She reached out and touched my wrist. Ethan, I care about you too. A lot. My heartbeat sped up. Since when? She laughed gently. For a while. I didn't say anything because you were hurting. I felt heat rise in my face. I'm scared, I admitted. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to fall apart again. She moved a little closer. Then don't rush. We don't have to jump into anything. We can take it slow as you want. I whispered, why are you so patient with me? She smiled. Because you're worth waiting for. My breath caught in my throat. I've never felt safe like this before. She squeezed my hand. That's how it should feel. I stared at our hands intertwined. I'm different now. I know, she said. And that's why you're ready for something better. I took a deep breath. I want to try slowly. She nodded. Then we'll go slow. I leaned my head back against the couch and exhaled. Tonight feels like everything turned. She rested her shoulder against mine. Maybe it did. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself believe it. The news came faster than I expected. I was eating breakfast when my phone buzzed nonstop. Mia glanced over. You're popular this morning. I sighed. Probably work. But when I checked, it wasn't work at all. It was messages from old friends, people I hadn't spoken to in months, all saying the same thing. Did you hear about Aaron? Did you see what happened? Mia raised a brow. What's going on? I shook my head. I don't know yet. Before I could open anything, Daniel called. Dude, you sitting down? I frowned. I'm literally standing. Well, sit, he insisted. I Saturday, okay. What happened? Daniel exhaled. Aaron got fired. I blinked. What? How? Apparently he blew up at his manager, Daniel said. They'd already given him warnings. This time he crossed a line. I rubbed my forehead. Wow. And that's not all, Daniel added. Lena found out he has another woman. Not just cheating, like a whole second relationship. Mia's eyes went wide. Seriously? I whispered. A second woman? Daniel replied, yeah. She stormed into his workplace and shouted the whole thing in front of everyone. Someone recorded it. It's online now. I closed my eyes. Great. Just what he needed. Mia leaned in. Do you want to see it? No, I said quickly. I really don't. Daniel continued. Their families got dragged into it too. Everyone's embarrassed. They've been fighting nonstop. I let out a slow breath. This is messy. Daniel paused. You okay? Yeah, I said. Surprisingly. After the call, Mia asked gently, do you feel anything? I thought for a moment. No, I don't feel good about it. I don't feel bad either. It just feels distant. She nodded slowly. That's growth. A few hours later, during lunch, my phone buzzed again. A message from Lena. Can we talk? Please. I need someone who understands me. I frowned. Mia saw my expression. Her again. Yeah, I said. She wants to talk. Well, Mia said with a shrug. You don't owe her anything. I know, I said. I'm not answering. I put my phone in my pocket and didn't look at it again. Later that evening, I checked it again only because it kept buzzing. This time it was Aaron. I'm sorry. I messed up. I lost everything. I know you hate me, but please, I need to hear you say you forgive me. Mia, sitting beside me on the couch, looked over when I groaned. Him too? Yeah, I muttered. He wants forgiveness. What are you going to say? She asked. I stared at the message. Honestly, nothing. She tilted her head. Nothing. I don't have anything left to give them, I said. No anger. No hatred. No forgiveness. Just nothing. She nodded, understanding. That's fair. I turned off my phone completely. I'm done living in their world. Mia smiled softly. Good, because you have your own life now. I glanced at her, feeling a warmth build in my chest. Speaking of my life, we never made our date official. She grinned. Is this you asking me? I laughed. Yeah, I guess it is. She played along. And what's the plan, Mr. Hale? Dinner, I said. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere calm. Somewhere neither of us has to pretend anything. She smiled wider. Then yes, I'd love to. On Friday evening, I picked her up. She stepped out of her house wearing a simple dress that somehow made my heart race. She smiled and asked, "Do I look okay?" I swallowed. "You look perfect." Her cheeks warmed. "You look nervous." "I am," I admitted. She laughed softly. "Don't be. It's just me." We got into the car, and the ride was filled with easy conversation. She teased me about my music playlist. I teased her about her obsession with iced tea. By the time we reached the restaurant, I felt the old tension in my chest fading away. During dinner, she said quietly, "I'm glad you asked me out." "I'm glad you said yes," I replied. She toyed with her straw. "Can I ask something?" "Anything. What made you decide you were ready?" I thought for a moment. Because last night, when Aaron called, when everything fell apart for them, I didn't feel pulled back. I didn't feel trapped in their mess anymore. I felt like I finally stepped out of that shadow. She nodded slowly, listening closely. "And then I thought about you," I continued. "How you've been here. How you made me feel safe when everything else hurt. I realized I wanted to move forward. And I wanted to move forward with you." Her eyes softened. "Ethan, you have no idea how long I hoped you'd say something like that." I smiled. "Really?" She laughed. "Yes, but you needed time. I wasn't going to rush you." "Thank you," I whispered, "for staying, for caring." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Of course I care." After dinner, we walked to the car slowly, not wanting the night to end. She brushed her arm against mine and asked, "So, what now?" I smiled. "Now we keep going. Slowly. Together." She nodded. I liked the sound of that. When I dropped her off, she lingered by the door. "Tonight was really nice," she said softly. "It was," I agreed. She hesitated, then leaned in and pressed a gentle kiss to my cheek. "Good night, Ethan." My heart thudded hard. "Good night, Mia." When I got home, I turned my phone back on. More messages from Lena. More from Aaron. More chaos. I deleted them all. For the first time, I felt proud of the man I was becoming. Karma wasn't something I had to control. It was unfolding on its own, and I was choosing something better. The invitation came in the mail. Mia handed it to me with a teasing smile. "Family gathering. You coming?" I glanced at it. I didn't know I was invited. She laughed. "You're practically part of the family now. It wouldn't be the same without you." I hesitated. "I don't want to overstep." "Overstep," she said, rolling her eyes. "Relax. They like you. You like them. That's enough." I smiled. "Okay, I'll come." On the day of the gathering, I pulled up to the house and saw Mia's parents outside, waving. "Ethan, you made it." Emily called. I waved back. "Of course. Wouldn't miss it." Mark shook my hand. "Glad to have you here. Make yourself at home." I stepped inside, and the warmth hit me immediately. Laughter, chatter, smells of food. Everything felt alive. I spotted Mia talking to her nieces, their laughter filling the room. "They're adorable," I whispered. "They've got your attention," Mia said softly, sliding her arm into mine. "They remind me how simple joy can be," I admitted. She smiled. "That's the point. Life doesn't always have to be messy." Daniel walked by with a plate of food. "Hey, Ethan, try the potato salad. Emily made it extra creamy today." I laughed. "Sounds dangerous." He smirked. "You survived our last cookout. You could survive this." I shook my head, smiling. "I'm glad I did." As we all settled around the table, Mia leaned close. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, more than okay. I feel welcome." She looked pleased. "Good. You should." The nieces ran between us, giggling. "Ethan, catch me," one shouted. I caught her easily and spun her around. "Gotcha." She squealed. "Again." Mia laughed. "Be careful. You'll break him before dessert." I grinned. "I don't think so." Daniel chuckled. "Careful, or I'll start charging admission for these stunts." I shrugged. "Worth it." After dinner, we all moved to the living room. Mark and Emily played a game with the kids while Daniel and Mia teased each other about winning trivia. I sat beside Mia, feeling her warmth. This feels right," I whispered. She leaned closer. "I'm glad you're here. I wanted you to see this side of my life." "I can see why you love it," I said quietly. It's peaceful. Real. She nodded. That's what I hoped you'd understand. We sat together in silence for a few minutes, just listening to the house buzz with life. I whispered, it's funny. I used to think happiness was some distant idea. Now I realize it's here, right in front of me. She touched my hand. You deserve it. I smiled. Thanks for letting me in. Just then, Daniel whispered, by the way, did you hear? Lena and Aaron finalized their divorce. I froze for a moment. They did. Yes, he said. It's all over social media. People are shocked. I shook my head. I'm not. Mia tilted her head. You feel nothing? I smiled softly. Not joy. Not satisfaction. Just peace. Their marriage was built on lies, betrayal, and chaos. It had to end. She squeezed my hand. That's maturity. That's growth. I nodded. I used to want revenge. I used to hope karma would hit hard. But now, I just want life to move forward. Mia leaned her head on my shoulder. And it's doing that. With you in it. I exhaled slowly. I feel like I've moved past everything that hurt me. Past them. Past the betrayal. She whispered, and me? You. I said softly. You're the calm after the storm. The reason I finally feel like I belong somewhere. Her smile warmed me more than the fireplace. You do belong. Here. With us. The nieces ran back and forth, pulling me into their games. Mia laughed, joining in. Daniel watched, shaking his head. I didn't think he had it in him. I laughed along. I have it in me when it matters. Later, we all gathered for dessert. Emily handed me a slice of pie. Here, Ethan. You earned this. I took it and smiled. Thank you. For everything. For letting me be part of your family. Mark patted my shoulder. Your family now, kid. Don't forget it. I felt my chest tighten. Not from pain, not from loss, but from something entirely different. Gratitude. Belonging. Happiness. Mia leaned into me again. See? This is life. Calm, safe, real. I whispered. I get it now. I finally understand what I was missing. Not chaos, not drama, not revenge, but this. She smiled, squeezing my hand again. Welcome to your new beginning, Ethan. I looked around the room, at laughing faces, at warmth, at care. Lena and Aaron's divorce might shock the world, but it didn't touch me. I didn't need that chaos anymore. I leaned back, taking a deep breath. Yeah, I whispered to myself. This is it. This is happiness. Mia rested her head against mine. I'm glad you see it. I closed my eyes and smiled. I do, and I won't let it go. For the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. No regrets. No pain. No looking back. Just forward. I sit on the balcony of my apartment, Mia's hand in mine, and the city lights flicker like tiny promises in the dark. I think about the day everything broke apart, the day Lena walked away, the day Aaron betrayed me. I remember the fire in my chest, the disbelief, the pain so sharp it felt like it would never fade. And yet, that was the day I was saved. Mia squeezes my hand. You're quiet tonight. I exhale slowly, just thinking about the past, about how far I've come. She smiles softly. Do you ever miss her? I shake my head. Not in the way you think. I don't miss Lena. I don't miss Aaron. I miss who I used to be before I realized I deserved better. But that version of me is gone. She tilts her head. Do you regret anything? Regret. I whisper. Maybe feeling so blindsided. Maybe letting them hurt me. But without it, I wouldn't have found you, or peace, or myself. Mia chuckles quietly. Sounds like you're rewriting the whole story. I laugh softly. Yeah, from heartbreak to this. You. Calm. Happiness I didn't think existed. She leans her head on my shoulder. You deserve it, Ethan. You've worked so hard to get here. I take a deep breath. I have. And it was brutal. But it was worth it. I think about Lena and Aaron, how their world crumbled while mine slowly rebuilt itself. I don't feel satisfaction. I don't feel anger. I feel acceptance. Their choices were theirs. My choices are mine. And mine led me here. Mia lifts her hand, brushing a strand of hair from my face. Do you ever wonder what they're thinking? I shake my head. Not really. I used to. I used to imagine them regretting everything. Now, I just know it's not my story anymore. I'm done with that chapter. She smiles. Good, because the next one is ours. I look at her and feel a warmth I didn't think I'd ever feel again. I never thought I'd get here. I thought heartbreak would define me. but it didn't. It made me stronger, smarter. It taught me to value what's real. Mia's eyes glisten. And what's real is us. I nod. Yes. You. Calm, steady, patient. Someone who stayed while I healed. Someone who let me grow instead of dragging me back into chaos. She laughs softly. You make it sound like a fairy tale. I smile, squeezing her hand. It doesn't feel like one. It feels like life. Messy, real, but beautiful. I lean back and remember the first time I cried in years, after Lena left me for Aaron. The rain soaked through my coat, and I felt like I'd never breathe again. I thought that was the end, but it was only the beginning. Mia shifts closer. You've changed a lot since then. I glance at her. I have. I went from heartbreak to survival, from anger to acceptance, from missing the past to embracing what I have now. And I'm not done yet. She smiles softly. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. I laugh quietly. I know. You've been my anchor through it all. She rests her forehead against my shoulder. And you've been brave enough to let yourself be vulnerable again. I take a deep breath. It wasn't easy. For a long time, I thought vulnerability was weakness. But I learned it's strength. Strength to feel, to trust, to love again. And you made it safe for me to feel all of that. She whispers, you make it safe for me too. I squeeze her hand tightly. We're both learning. Together. I think about the moments that brought me here. The phone call with Aaron, hearing Lena confess her regrets, seeing their world collapse. I think about the nights I sat alone, crying, and the days I struggled just to eat or get out of bed. I think about Mia, showing up when I pushed everyone else away. And I realize something. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every sleepless night led me here. I whisper, almost to myself, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Mia looks up at me. What was that? Nothing. I say softly, smiling. Just thinking out loud. About life. About how losing everything actually saved me. She tilts her head. Saved you? I nod. Yeah. Losing Lena. Losing Aaron. It forced me to find myself. To understand what I wanted. To understand what I deserve. And now I know. She smiles and squeezes my hand. And what do you deserve? I look in her eyes. You. Calm. Peace. Happiness. A life without chaos. And someone to hold on to. Someone to grow with. That's what I deserve. That's what I choose. Mia whispers. And you chose me? I nod, smiling wider than I have in years. I choose you. I choose us. I choose this life. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. And because it's ours. She leans against me, and I feel her heartbeat match mine. I realize that this is what I've been searching for all along. Not revenge, not closure, not control, but safety, love, and belonging. The city lights flicker, and I let out a long, contented breath. I've finally arrived. Here. Now. With you. Mia squeezes my hand again, whispering, welcome home. I look out at the lights and the dark sky, and think about the twist that brought me here. Lena. Aaron. Heartbreak. Betrayal. Each was a piece of a puzzle I didn't understand at the time. And now the picture is clear. I whisper, almost to the night, sometimes the worst heartbreak becomes the beginning of the best story. I turn to Mia, still holding her hand, and feel a gratitude so deep it swells in my chest. This is our story now, our beginning, and I'll never let it go. She smiles softly, resting her head against mine. Neither will I. I close my eyes, feeling the weight of the past finally lift. I feel peace. I feel love. I feel hope. And for the first time in years, I feel truly, completely alive.